A day after Prime Minister Narendra Modi tore into the opposition and defended his government's economic track record, India Inc. has decided to throw its weight behind the Prime Minister. A whole host of corporates assert that economic activity will soon gain momentum and growth will certainly be at much higher levels for the third and fourth quarter. But Yashwant Sinha continues to insist that Indian economy is in a crisis, and as Bhishma, he won't allow its Cheer Haran.
In fact, the Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi mounted a fresh attack when he said that the government must accept economic mismanagement and should earnestly look to course correct. Tonight, on the India Development Debate Direct, we have one of New Delhi's most vocal voices, Railways Minister Piyush Goyal, to defend and counter-attack on his government's behalf. Thank you very, very much, Mr. Goyal, for being with us. I've called you one of the most vocal voices in New Delhi, and not without a reason there, Mr. Goyal. Thanks very much for being with us. And thanks very much for your time. The Prime Minister's fiery speech on the economy and his big defense, I think, has reignited hopes. Was this an attempt really, and I want you to be candid here, was this an attempt really to counter the narrative, to regain economic confidence when professors of doom were out there in full force?
Not at all. It was just the reality put before the public. The truth coming out, because a lot of naysayers and a lot of voices were trying to vitiate the positive atmosphere, were trying to deflect public opinion to issues which were of no consequence. And I think the Honorable Prime Minister really had gone to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Institute of Company Secretaries and wanted to convey the message that India is changing. There's a premium to honesty now, and wanted to encourage everybody to go along with the new norm, as Honorable Finance Minister often says. And it was only to present the truth before the people that Honorable Prime Minister gave the actual picture that is prevailing in the country.
Right. Mr. Goyal, you know, while the attempt to talk up the economy is indeed welcome and has been very well received by stakeholders, especially in the industry, the one concern is 3.5 years in office. Why is the government sort of, you know, still holding UPA responsible for some of the economic woes today? And more importantly, why is UPA being seen as a benchmark as far as governance is concerned, given the fact that the people of this country rejected the UPA? So why is the government currently comparing its economic track record with that of the UPA?
Normally, we wouldn't have done it, but some very eminent economists of the Congress, some former finance ministers of the Congress were trying to make a song and dance about issues which we have inherited from them. Therefore, we made it a comparison. Now look at bank NPAs. Have we got anything to do with that? Was a single one of those loans passed by the BJP government? They are all legacy issues that they left behind. They kept evergreening those loans, you know that as well as I do. They kept evergreening, presenting a false picture before the world, and now are trying to attack us on that. The fact is that in their time, the situation had become so bad by the time we inherited it in 14, that obviously we could not have changed the narrative within 1 year or 2 years. It needed time, it needed rebuilding the confidence in the economy. It needed us to create a situation where the world would trust India, which was very much lacking when the Congress was in government. So which is why I think the perspective has to be seen in comparison to the Congress.
I'd just be a little tongue-in-cheek, not just former finance ministers of the Congress, some of your former finance ministers as well there. But I do want to talk to you about the other focus, and we at ET now have a very contrarian position on this, unlike a lot of misinformed information out there, and that's the petroleum taxes. We believe the government needs these taxes to have development, to build infrastructure. So we at ET now actually have a very different position. The reason why I'm asking this question is that do you believe the government gave in to the political compulsions, and which is why it decided to cut excise duty by 2 rupees? Because the 2 rupees doesn't really put a lot of money in the pockets of common man, and yet robs the fisc of what? Nearly 13,000 crore rupees. Why was there a need to do so?
No, Gujarat has also decided to cut the VAT by some percent. I don't know what they have decided today. But the important point in that is that there was a sudden uptick in the prices of petroleum products recently after the hurricane in Texas and certain global events, because of which I think the price of petrol suddenly went up, and we were only calibrating it so that there's no shock in the economy. Also, inflation should not get fueled because of very sudden increase in petroleum product prices. But you're right, the fact is that all this money is in a way like a carbon tax. It also saves the country from adverse impact of climate change, but also gives development funds both to the center and states. And you're well aware that even the center's collection largely goes back to the states, whether it's a 42% devolution or even the scheme-specific devolution. So really we are trying to collect the money and give it to the states for public welfare. But because of this sudden increase in the international prices, we thought we should calibrate the impact.
The concern, Mr. Goyal, is does this crowd out the space for a likely fiscal stimulus? And I want to know your own view. I understand eventually it's a call that will be taken by the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister. But over the last few weeks, we've had various people in the government, from the Vice Chairman of Niti Aayog, making a strong case for fiscal stimulus, to someone like a Jayant Sinha who believes we should not trade our macroeconomic stability for growth. What's your own view? Does this crowd out the space for fiscal stimulus? Is the government at least considering some sort of a stimulus package to pump prime the economy?
Sandeep, I again have a contrarian view like ET now on this one. I believe that this is one government that for the last 3.5 years has been in a state of stimulus all the way through. We've been looking at scaling up projects. We've been looking at scaling up investments from the government almost regularly. You look at the way we've promoted affordable housing. Look at the speed with which we've taken up renewable energy, for instance. Look at the speed with which we've taken up energy efficiency, for instance. Look at the way we expanded optic fiber from 358 kilometers in 3 years to 2 lakh kilometers in the country. So this is a government for which fiscal stimulus is a way of life.
Okay, fiscal stimulus doesn't perhaps need to be as stimulus like you suggest, but it's a way of life for your government. I'm going to talk about something that that you get a lot of green on the report card for, which is robust FDI inflows. And the Prime Minister rightly said that FDI signals the faith that foreign investors have in the economy. The red flag, though, is coming in from two marquee investors. Vodafone has raised a red flag on the interconnect charges, and GE is uncomfortable over the whole narrative and status of the locomotive plant in Bihar. Now, given the fact that your existing investors are perhaps the best ambassadors of foreign investment in the country, how concerned are you with these two marquee investors being nervous, and you know and how will you assuage some of their concerns?
Well, I think both these cases are absolutely baseless concerns. In the first case, in the case of Vodafone, it was established and known well in advance that interconnect charges are gradually going to taper down. It's not as if it's something which has happened out of the blue. If I'm not mistaken, this was to have actually happened sometime earlier, and a long rope was given. So I don't think at all Vodafone has any business to complain about it. If at all they are doing it, it's unfair. The reality is that IUC was going to fall. Everybody knew that investments are called for to keep pace with modern technology, newer technologies. And I wish they had, rather than crying, they should have focused on investing in newer technologies much earlier. As far as the GE issue is concerned, I don't think there's a ban that we are not even allowed to think in our offices or think of newer ways to make the Indian story more efficient, more effective in its delivery of services. After all, India is committed to climate change, and we are trying to see every possible way to bring down carbon emissions. And in that, if we have an internal discussion, has there been a single comment or statement from the government telling GE that they should not pursue the project? On the contrary, I have said it in front of the press that the project is on track, it continues as it is. So I don't know why they are at all concerned, if at all they are concerned.
Thank you for clearing the air on that. Now, since we are on the subject of railways, Mr. Goyal, the recent unfortunate event in Mumbai is something that you've obviously done a lot on subsequently, and I don't want to talk about that, but it's restarted this whole debate on the need for bullet trains, and I want you to sort of clear the air, because you've had political parties like the MNS which have claimed that they will not allow a brick also being set up here in Mumbai as far as the bullet train project is concerned. Now, like Supriya said, we, for example, believe that bullet train is needed. Our whole narrative has been on bullet train for growth. Can you sort of use this platform to at least address the concerns on the status of the bullet train project? Is that on track, or will the government now be forced to give in to some of this opposition that's coming in wake of the unfortunate event here in Mumbai?
Well, Sandeep, first of all, I pay my condolences to all the families of the bereaved. It really hurts me, and I cannot tell you how sorry I am that anything like this should happen in the Indian Railways. We took immediate note of the issues which were stopping development of safety facilities. I sat through all of Friday and Saturday with the teams in Central and Western Railway in Mumbai. We had extended sessions. We took some very, very far-reaching decisions. You're already aware that we have given safety the primary thrust. All track renewals have been given the highest priority, even at the cost of delaying new lines. In Mumbai, I took a decision that now platforms, FOBs, entry-exit gates are all going to be safety-related, not a passenger amenity, something that's been going on for, I think, over 100 years. We took quick decisions on timelines and how we are going to expand the Indian railway network going forward. I'm already working with the railways to see, with the Central and Western Railway, to see how we can expand capacity given the space constraint, how we can bring in better facilities for the passengers. We're doing all of that. Having said that, in fact, 3 days back, I called the general managers from all across India. On the 3rd of this month, we sat through with 17 general managers from each zone, and we ran through for almost 13 hours on what needs to be done to rejuvenate that thrust and make rail travel safe and sound. There's absolutely no shortage of funds for safety. Let me make that very loud and clear. And the pool of capital and funds for safety is different from the pool that's going to be used for making bullet trains. There's a new loan that JICA, the Japanese, are giving almost at no cost, 0.1%, 50-year loan. India has never received a loan of this size, of this periodicity, tenor, and this rate of interest ever before. 0.1%, 50 years, 15-year moratorium, and I think that money is going to help India get into the new age of technology. I personally believe it's that same mindset of the Congress which has deprived this nation of modern technology. After 69, when the Rajdhani came in, we've not engaged with modern technology at all. And do we want to keep our people of India perpetually at the mercy of age-old technologies, age-old infrastructure? Or should we not bring in new technology, make that in India, which is permitted under this agreement, use that technology to rapidly scale up modern technology across the country, build more bullet trains, build more high-speed trains, safe, secure, comfortable. Prime Minister Modi believes India's time has come. India will no more accept mediocrity, will not accept mediocre work. We want the best in India. The people of India deserve the best, and that's exactly what we are trying to do.
So I'm glad at least you're throwing your weight behind bullets and basics coexisting, and that's exactly what we at ET Now also would want to support you on. But Mr. Goyal, we are speaking a day after the central bank refused to oblige on a rate cut despite the clamor from every stakeholder in the Indian economy, including New Delhi. Very famously, a former finance minister from the opposition once said that if the government has to walk the path of growth alone, so be it. Have you reconciled yourself to also walking the path of this growth alone, without any help from monetary policy?
Well, I don't want to join issue with the regulator. I think we'll let the time tell the story, because the reality is that we've put in all the effort to make the economy really get back that speed and scale. I'm very confident that we will succeed irrespective of what support we get or do not get from anybody else.
But I understand that you don't want to talk about the regulator, but specifically on inflation targeting, and this is not to necessarily do with the central bank, but this this concept of targeting inflation. Do you believe that inflation is structurally so weak that the that monetary policy authorities need to give precedence to inflation over growth at a time when we are in the middle of a slowdown?
Well, I was just reading from a paper about inflation forecasts that were made in the last 8 monetary policies and what the actual inflation has been. And it makes for interesting reading. I would urge you to look up the CMI data on that. I think we have been proven right every single one of the time. And I therefore believe that what Prime Minister Modi's government has done to bring inflation under control, महंगाई नहीं होने देना, लोगों के ऊपर मार नहीं पड़ना महंगाई की, ये हमारी सबसे बड़ी उपलब्धि रही है. We have been successful in controlling inflation. It's very unfortunate that many people are still living in an age-old theory, despite being proven wrong time and again on inflation forecasts.
And those many people live on Main Street, it seems, right now. But before I let you go, one final question. The Prime Minister rightly said that the government is ready to take tough decisions which will take economy on the path to development. Which is the direction he's thinking in?
Well, as he also said, that we are a very responsive government. We listen to people, we see what, we have our ear to the ground. We are not ostrich in our decision making. And when we get good input, good feedback, we change with the times. In fact, just before coming on your show, I spent the last 4 hours talking to developers of stations and land developers to see how we can get the mojo back into station redevelopment. So we are a government which engages with stakeholders. We did that with LEDs, we did that with solar, we did that with wind. You saw yesterday's only second wind auction and prices are down to less than half. So that's the kind of impact, honesty, scale and sincerity the Modi government is able to bring to the people of India. The people of India like Prime Minister Modi, that trust Prime Minister Modi for these very reasons.
Mr. Goyal, I'm just going to step in one last question, which is again something that we are actively monitoring, which is the privatization process. It was disappointing for us that the government took so long to move on privatization, but now that you've moved on the privatization of Air India, you're a part of that panel. Could you help us, bring us up to speed on where things are? How much more time is taken, will be taken before your government makes a call on this privatization? Will it happen in this financial year, sir?
Well, I think speculation on that would be inappropriate right now. First of all, the very fact that this government is willing to bite the bullet on that, I think is a big enough endorsement of the confidence that the people have in Prime Minister Modi. We would like that process to run through carefully so that we can maximize value and ensure that the government and the people of India get a fair and honest valuation on that. I think the Honorable Finance Minister, who's the chairman of the committee, is the only person who would be able to really appraise you about the developments on that.
Mr. Piyush Goyal, can't thank you enough for taking time out this evening and joining us on this direct interaction on the India development debate. Thank you very much for putting things in perspective. A day after the Prime Minister has spoken, it looks like there is renewed confidence in a narrative that was largely taken over by the doomsayers. So thanks very much for being with us.
Thank you, sir.